Oh yeah, right there. Okay. You want to move over one? I'll see that. Okay, great. Okay. You know what? Okay, so we're going to continue to build our understanding of these halachot with the criteria of, is the level of respect to a father-in-law, a mother-in-law, the same level as to a mother or father? So you would say, from a common sense perspective, should be. Obviously it is, right? That's what you would say. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. You would say, from a common sense perspective, of course not. Who are they? We're lucky we say hello to them, right? You would say that maybe. So there are absolute differences. You're right. It's not the same.
Showing a level of respect is yes, but
not the same. Very good.
Well, some of it is greater.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. Very good. So, chayav adam nechabed et chamiv v'chamoto. A person has to be mechabed. Remember, we use the word kibud and mora, right? So, where Maran starts is that a person has to be mechabed, i.e., he has to understand the weightiness of his mother-in-law or father-in-law. We're not talking about awe, right? We're talking about weightiness, right? B'kima v'hidur. B'kima, by standing up. V'hidur. Hidur means to beautify, to glorify. We don't know what that means yet. But from the outset, we're seeing, to your point, that we're already going to be carving out a distinction here. So there is a chiyuv, there is an obligation, the chabed, to honor, i.e., to appreciate the weightiness, the importance. We're not talking about awe or fear, right? We're talking about the weightiness or importance of chamiv v'chamoto. There's no difference between father-in-law and mother-in-law. And immediately Maran qualifies to say b'kima, with standing up. It's seemingly to the exclusion of whatever else we said. But let's see. Vehidur. We don't know what hidur means yet. Hidur typically means to glorify or to beautify. Okay. Kishemagiim netoch arba amotav. When they come within, let's say, 10 to 12 feet of the person. In other words, when do you have to stand up for a parent or a grandfather? When he walks into the room. The minute you see him. He could be 10 feet away, he could be as far away as he is, right? You have to stand up immediately. And when do you sit down? After he sits down. Beautiful. So how are we qualifying this? I don't have to stand up when he's all the way over there, when I first see him. I can wait until he's 10 or 12 feet from me. So it's already a qualified level of respect. Good. And now he's giving us the criteria. Like you would respect any learned elder. So we know that a learned elder, hi, good morning. An elder has to be respected in any case, right? Simply because of his age and assumed wisdom. But a learned elder would have to be stood up for, yeah? A learned elder, we stand up for that person. We stand up for that person, same thing, within 10 or 12 feet of their distance to us. We're talking about how we treat an in-law. Okay? Chamiv v'chamoto. Aval en chiyuv v'chabdam, but there is no obligation to respect them. Kekavod aviv v'imo. Hi, honey. Good morning. There is. Hi, honey. We don't have to respect them on the same level of mom and dad. So when we talked about that in specific terms, what did we say? That the kavod is really very practical, right? We said that the son has to appreciate the weightiness of the father or mother by taking care of food and drink, shelter, needs, basic needs, transport from the father's own money. That's what we said. And then we said that there's a lot. We spent a few learning classes on this. We said that we also have to be concerned about sa'ar, about causing pain to a mother or father. And we said, though, that you could either qualify that in the kavod area, according to some rabbis we did, right? We said that causing pain to a parent, i.e., our example, we created an extreme example. We said the father tells you, I don't want you to buy that field in Oklahoma, right? I really rather you don't do it. And you feel it's a good thing and you want to do it. We said it's clearly outside of the criteria of kavod, of respecting the weightiness of a parent. It's outside of that. It might be in the criteria of morah, of awe, right? It might be in that criteria. According to some, it was. And therefore, you'd have to listen because of that. And according to most, it wasn't in either. But it might be lifnei mishurat hadin, greater than the letter of the law, which we often strive to do, or midas hasidut, which is even, we might say, greater than that. It's a saintly act. But clearly, with a father-in-law, I don't have to be worried about those things.
And that's problematic. You have children,
Yeah.
grandchildren, like, oh, they're going to listen to that grandparents, not those grandparents.
That's right.
The wife now becomes an issue.
That's right. That's exactly
In
right.
reality, you have to.
Okay, very good. In practicality, you say, what do you mean? I'm going to make a difference here? What am I teaching my children? Right? How does my wife feel about that?
Teaching them what the Torah says.
Right? Okay, you would say, I'm teaching him what the Torah says. Torah says,
That's a good one.
Torah says it ain't the same. First level, it is clearly not the same. Okay? In fact, you might even say that it's just a notch better than what I have to show a learned elder. A learned elder gets my respect because he's a learned elder, and more or less,
I would even take it to a different spin if the in-laws are not learned people, and I'm talking to a learned elder. I'm going to give more respect to the learned elder.
okay, very good. Okay, very good. So you're on a very different place than where Abe is. Abe is saying that I don't know what you're saying. You know, I'm trying to build a value system for my children. If the value system I build is I respect this person more overtly, openly, and I respect that grandparent less, how does that work with my children? And by the way, how's my wife going to feel about that? There's practical questions that we're going to talk about, right? We said that, in general terms, we said that if I have an obligation to take care of my parents with their money, and if they don't have money, right? If they don't have money, what do I have to do? Do I have to take it from my charity money? Do I have to go out and raise money? We didn't dig into that yet, but we're going to leave that door open that maybe I do. What do I have to do for an in-law? My father-in-law is going through a tough time financially. Do I have an obligation?
You have an obligation to save because you and your wife are one. So.
Okay, very nice. So if we
That's not true.
say,
I agree with that.
Also, what I saw is when
Well, if he has sons.
you give them the
If he
kavod,
has sons.
like your parents,
He has sons, up to
then
sons.
your wife gives the kavod back, and everyone
You may
is
be
on
secondary
one
and father was the-
beautiful.
unit.
So Abe's point is on a very practical level. On a very practical level, if we're consistent with what we show to both, if we're consistent, then we're going to build a certain value system in our family, right? And we're not going to create this dissonance. Okay, let's see.
Okay, what you're creating, you
Huh?
just don't know it yet.
What's that?
Those actions that you act upon causes machloket someone down the line. Meaning, when you start saying, "Oh, this side of the family's better," or
Okay, very good. That might happen. That absolutely might happen. Good. He's going the other way for a minute. He says, even if his father-in-law is a young man, he has to stand up for him. So I'm telling you that the primary reason you stand up for your father-in-law or mother-in-law is because we parallel them at least, or no, forget the at least, not fair to insert that. Because we parallel them to a learned elder, then he comes back and says, but wait a second, once I parallel them to a learned elder, they don't have to be an elder. Right? Because you might say if I'm paralleling them to a learned elder, they have to be an elder. But if the parent is younger, I parallel them in general terms to a learned elder. Yeah, Monk?
Yeah, they don't have to be an elder.
Huh?
They don't have to be an elder, otherwise they wouldn't have said that.
Beautiful, beautiful, perfect. They don't have to be an elder. Beautiful, beautiful, yeah.
So is mitzvah not kibud avim anymore?
Huh, one second, very nice. So now what we're saying is like this. These two guys would sit together in every class and take the most extreme positions, right there. They're back. When they're back, we know, have that left flag.
I'll tell you, I don't want to say I tell you. Say, in my humble opinion, if I have a father who I totally disrespect, who is a bad person, I'll never stand for that person, ever.
Very good. You're in section 3, which we didn't get to yet, which is, what if the guy's a bad guy? What if he's Mehalel Shabbat? Morning. What if he's... Very good. We're going to talk about that too. What if my father's a bad guy? We're going to talk about that. Hi, honey. Good morning. What if my father's a bad guy? We're going to talk about that too. We didn't get to that yet. Now we're splitting the hairs first. We want to split the hairs, okay? What we're saying now is, I love my father-in-law. He brought me my wife. You know, we say in many areas of halakha that, and Abe referenced it, we say in many areas of halakha that the man and woman are the same. Bal kishto, isha k'ba'ala. We say that in a lot of areas of halakha. It's a fascinating area of halakha, where we say that once man and woman come together, they're one. We say it, of course, in the laws of edut, in the laws of, can somebody be a witness for a relative? Well, if it's my wife's relative, not my relative, becomes my relative, right? So we say it in many respects that once two people come together and they have a marriage, they become one halachically. Very good. We're not saying that here. What we're saying here is that you don't respect your father-in-law as much as your father. Now, I want you to turn this the other way for a minute. The way we're looking at it now, and it's a natural response, is, well, you're telling me to respect my father-in-law less.
What's the difference? The difference is seeing him in a room or waiting till he gets closer, and then if you do it, right?
Excellent, honey. We're gonna do more.
Treat him nice.
Excellent. We're gonna do more. You're right. Hold that for a couple of minutes. Very good. We're gonna do more. He's saying, give me more. Tell me more of the differences. I'm telling you right now. Look at it this way. I have to stand up for him. Vigamanu. I don't have to provide food and shelter for him. I don't have to take and bring him. I don't have to be worried about sa'ad. I don't have to be worried about all those things. Okay. Is it counterintuitive to us? It is. It's not counterintuitive to Mark. But for a minute, I want you to look at it the following way. We're going to dig into it. I want you to look at it the following way. What it means is, it puts my father on a higher level, not my father-in-law on a lower level. Right. That's where I want you to be right now. Because, of course, we love our father-in-laws, yeah? Of course, we're going to show them basic respect. Now, we say we have to show them more than basic respect. Have to stand up for the man. How many people stand up for their father-in-law? How many people? Huh? That's a big deal. You have a son getting married, right? You're going to teach them to stand up when you walk in the room, right? Very good. That's a big deal. Do they stand up for you, Eddie?
Oh.
Yeah, the married kids? Yeah. Okay, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable.
They don't know better.
Huh?
They don't know better.
Okay, so that's a big part of the reason we're here, right? And again, we're not doing this for our kavod. We're doing this to make them better people. Hamoded. Let's go. We're doing this to make them better people, and I'm not blowing smoke with that. A daughter-in-law who stands up for her father is a different person. A father-in-law is a different person. She's clearly a different person. I'm not speaking specifically about this one and that one. I'm speaking about an overall level of awareness and sensitivity.
For sure.
It's for sure. Good. Very good. Okay. ויש נוהגים גם כן לנשק ידי חמיב דרך כבוד. What does that mean, Naimi? Huh? To kiss their hand. Eddie. To kiss their hand. יש נוהגים. וכן ראוי לעשות. Chacham, what does that mean?
Yeah, and we're.
That's the right thing to do. וכן ראוי לעשות. Okay, let's just pause for a minute. Okay.
It's the right thing. He says it's worthy, right?
Worthy, it's a worthy thing to do. Very good. So now, when the rabbis say that's the worthy thing to do, Isaac, what would you hold, honey? Do I want to be doing it or not? You want to be doing it, right? Yeah.
If it's no heg. If it's
Well, very nice. So you're taking it on a serious level. So good. Excellent. V'yesh nohagim.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, because you're gonna say,
They're trouble when you put them together. You see it? You already see it, right? You're giggling together, yeah.
This is not in the Torah, correct?
This is not in the Torah?
This is not biblical.
This is not biblical. Very good, Mark. Yes, you're right. It's not biblical. Correct.
Okay, then I don't care.
Then you don't care?
No. Because every rabbi has a different opinion.
The way it
Every rabbi
works,
has a different opinion.
I don't even know what to say anymore, you know?
well, he's
I'm not being disrespectful to you.
I
or
know.
Any other rabbi.
But let me tell you how the
That
system
person's
works.
opinion.
Let me tell you how the system works.
But he's
The-
saying it's only an opinion. Yes, only. It's not
Okay, we have Yesh Omrim. Right, when we have Yesh Omrim, right, if we have an opinion against it, if we have a stam opinion that says otherwise, a basic opinion that says yes, and then there's a Yesh Omrim that says no, we go by the stam, we go by the basic opinion. But over here, we don't have an opinion that says don't do it. We just have an opinion that says, not sure. We're going to go further. But to your point, if we had an opinion that said, you know what, it's totally not included and not considered, if we had an opinion that said the basic text doesn't say it, and therefore don't worry about it, and then we had a Yesh Omrim after that, we had a secondary opinion that said, but there are those who hold, I wouldn't have to worry about those who hold. But over here, I don't have a first opinion that says don't do it. I don't have that. I have a first opinion that says not sure, because because if I parallel the man and woman as one person, let's go the other way for a minute, right? Let's go with a little bit of a halachic rigor here, right? In many things, particularly in a witness, right? Someone cannot be a witness for a relative, right? Someone cannot be a witness for a relative. A relative, let's say there was something happened, right? Reuven gave Shimon a loan. He gave him a $1,000 loan, and who was witness to the loan? Two of Reuven's relatives, right? Very good. Okay, Abe, can I use those witnesses? I can't use them, right? Because I can't have witnesses who are kidovim. I can't have witnesses who are relatives. So therefore, their testimony doesn't help either party here. Good. What if it was the reason that I have a problem is not because the witness was a brother to the person who borrowed, but was a brother-in-law. Can I use him? We say no. Why not? There's no blood relation. Because the wife and husband... Hi, Jeffrey. Morning. Because the wife and husband are considered on the same line. Yeah? The wife and... Jeffrey, you know what? You want to come sit here? So, yeah, come sit here. Huh? Okay? I just want everybody to see. Okay, great. Okay, beautiful. Okay. Because the wife and husband are on the same line. Therefore, if the wife and husband are on the same line, so why shouldn't the same hold true with respect? Okay, that's our nuance. Okay, let's see. ובפרט, אם חמיב הוא בעל מעשים טובים ובן תורה. What does he say? Morris, ובפרט, אם חמיב הוא בעל מעשים טובים ובן תורה. What does that mean? He says, and certainly that's the case, Mark, certainly that's the case, if his father-in-law is Baal Masim Tovim, is a guy who helps people, and or Ben Torah, a guy who knows some Torah, right? I certainly got to stand up, and I certainly have to kiss his hand. Because shekain imhu tamid chacham, and of course, if he's tamid chacham. But he puts in brackets, umikol makom en hiyuv mora b'hamiv hamoto. What does that mean? I don't have an obligation to be in awe of them. I don't have an obligation to be in awe of them. Let's just go back a minute and talk about what the awe meant, if we can. Let's see if I have it here.
I think this is a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, and that's exactly why. And that's exactly why I brought it up.
You're passing judgment, right? I'm about Torah. You're not.
Great,
Oh,
true.
you learn with this rabbi. I learn with that.
Good,
rabbi.
true,
You know,
true.
Right, so now your kids have become these cynics because they're watching this happen live right in front of their face.
Excellent, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because sometimes when the halacha is not black and white, and we have to use our judgment, and we have to dig deeper, we have to do so. The rabbis could have easily said, which we would say from a common sense basis, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Mommy's father is any less important to you than my father? What are you talking about? How can you say something like that? Is that the charge you want to bring up? That he's going to respect your wife's father less? From his perspective, he can't, right? But from my perspective, I can. Right? Your child can't respect his grandfather less, but you will respect your father-in-law less. That's mashma so far. Let's see. Okay, sorry, 1 second. Ezehu mora. I just want to remind us what mora is, what being in awe means. What does being in awe mean? Because we said you don't have to act in a state of awe vis-a-vis father-in-law or mother-in-law. Lo ya'amod b'mkomo hamiyuchad lo la'amod. I can't stand in the place where my father stands. 1 second. Now we're saying, I can stand in the place where my father-in-law stands, but let's go back and remind ourselves. Mora or awe means I can't stand in the place where my father stands. Jeffrey, what would be an example of that? What would be an example of standing, huh?
Sitting in his seat.
I'm not sitting in a seat. I'm standing. I'm not sitting in a seat, of course not. By the way, can your son sit at your desk? Of course not. I'm talking about father now. I'm not talking about father-in-law. Of course he can't sit at your desk. Can your son sit at your chair at the dining room table? Never. Of course not. By the way, we hold, and I don't know if it's halakha l'maaseh or not, I never checked, but we hold that you wouldn't sit in that chair for a year. Right? For a year.
Wow.
Yeah. How dare you?
I still can't.
You still can't. Okay, emotionally you still
5
can't.
years later.
5 years later you still can't.
A lot of people leave it empty always.
Now leave it empty. Good. So mora, which we're not at now, as we're learning so far, we're not obligated to this state of awe for our in-laws, would mean for a father, I can't stand in his place. Or makom hamiyuchal lo lehitpalel. I can't go and pray. Let's say my father prays in this place in the shul, right? I'm not going to sit in a seat, but he wasn't there today, so I'm going to go up and stand where he prays. I can't stand where my father stands in the shul and prays. Can't do that. From mora, from the awe perspective. I can do that with my father-in-law. I can't even stand there. Right, like we said. At the house, in the office, I cannot sit in my father's place in the office. Chamsion. Got it?
Yeah.
I can't do it. Right, very good. Yeah?
We never had a Jewish king that had a son that sat in the same throne seat, like?
After he was gone?
Yeah.
After he was gone, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, after he was gone. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. V'chen, im yesh le'ima makom kavua b'bayit לשבת שם. If mom has her spot, Mark, if mom has her spot, right? אסור לבן או לבת לשבת שם, אבל לעמוד שם מותר. אוקיי. ויש אומרים שכל האיסור דווקא בפני אביו, או אפילו שלא בפניו, אפילו יש שם אנשים אחרים. Okay. So, awe is one step beyond weightiness or honor, And it means that the subtle things are not allowed either. The indirect things are not allowed either, to be in awe. To be in awe means my father is not there. He's not coming today. Nobody's sitting in the thing. There isn't another chair available in the room. Too bad. Can't sit there. Or means that my father usually prays in this spot. The room is crowded. I'm going to have to squeeze myself into another spot. Squeeze yourself into another spot. You with me, Jeffrey?
Yes.
Squeeze yourself into another spot. Does that relate to my father-in-law or mother-in-law? The answer is no. Okay, very good. Now, let's go outside the book for a minute, then we're going to go back inside, right?
Why wouldn't you want to stand in the same spot that your father usually prays in? To me, that's the ultimate respect, rather than two steps over.
When he's alive?
Your father,
When he's alive,
when he's alive, if he doesn't come to shul that day or for that week,
when my father is alive, stand in his spot?
why?
My father
in the
is
room.
gone
He come back there.
17 years. I sat in his spot. No, I'm trying to answer your question. My father's gone 17 years, yeah? I sat in his chair in Sharet Zion for an event a few months ago. I was shaking. Who am I to ever sit in my father's chair? Ever. Ever. To me, that's a throne that should be left empty. Okay? Al pi halacha, I can sit there. But to stand when my father stands while he's still alive? Would you even consider something like that? You're saying it's the opposite. Because my father stands there, I'm showing him respect by standing there.
That's right.
Okay. Any thoughts on that? That's not the halacha, but any thoughts on that? Joe?
I think it's a very extreme thing to say that you can't stand when your father stands.
Okay, but that's the halacha.
Stand in the room and pray.
That's the halacha. Why is it so extreme?
It just sounds like it's not the most important.
Let me ask you something. If your rabbi is in the minyan with you, right? And you're in one line. Let's say it's a room goes like this, and your rabbi's in the room with you. Could you stand on the same line as your rabbi when you're praying the Amidah? Of course you can't. You have to stand behind him. Why? Why do you have to stand behind him? Because he's your rabbi.
Well, if he's not there,
If he's not there, he's not there. But if your father is not there, can you go over to his place and stand in it? The answer is no.
Mark is saying that's showing that this is my father's spot.
It might be a more meaningful prayer.
Huh?
It might mean more
Okay, it
prayer.
might be, but it's not a sign of awe. Yeah.
Oh, I think that.
Okay.
What if he tells you-
If your father tells you, what if your father tells you to stand there? Then you can stand there.
Like it's his seat.
Of course, then you can stand there. Very good.
Seat's taken.
Okay, very good. Your father tells you to stand there, otherwise you can't stand there. Okay, Bialkut Shimoni Ita, Amado. Now listen to this, how fascinating what this is built from. It's fascinating. Amalo David LeShaul, we're bringing a case from Sefer Shemuel, right? From the book of Samuel, Aleph. Amalo David LeShaul, Avi Re'eh Gam Re'eh. Dad, father, see this. Avi re'eh gam re'eh. He says, we say that David was in a spot with his father-in-law, right, with Shaul, and he says, re'eh gam re'eh. See this and see this. Let me explain further. מכאן שחייב אדם מכבוד חמיב ככבוד אביו. אמר רבי יהודה אבי ראה אמר לשאול, וגם ראה אמר לאבנר. ורבנן אמרי ואבי ראה אמר לאבנר שהיה אביו מדאורייתא. גם ראה אמר לשאול, who was his father-in-law. Says like this. He says, David is, he sees Avner, who was a giant of Torah, who was David's Torah teacher, and he sees Shaul, his father-in-law, right? And he says, Avi re'eh gam re'eh. He tells the two of them, see this thing. The rabbis learned from that he referred to both of them as his father. Now, interestingly, to refer to his teacher as his father, Pashut. He's his father of Torah. The way he called his Avner his father is very logical for the rabbis, because he's his father in the sense that he gave him Torah. Who gave him more than that? But the fact that he repeats the word twice, re'eh gam re'eh, our rabbis say that he was referring to his Torah father and his father-in-law. Now, what's the problem with this?
They're the same.
Huh?
He's comparing his father and his father-in-law are the same.
Go more fundamental to me. Come on. What is the problem with this? What is the problem with this? What is the problem? Yeah? The problem is what? First problem, gentlemen, that we need to know. Mark, you with me?
I'm just trying to think about it.
Okay, the first problem that we need to know is that we don't learn halakha from the Navi. We don't learn halakha, we don't learn Jewish law from the prophets. We don't do it. So how are you taking something halachic from the prophets? This is Sefer Shmuel. Good.
So where did we learn halakha from?
One second. Mechilta, ita. Okay, so you're going to tell me, some people are going to say that because David referenced his father with the same, his father-in-law, with the same level of respect that he referenced someone who he must act to like his father, meaning his Torah father, therefore we're going to learn from David that you have to honor your father-in-law as well. It's not great for a few reasons. A, Doresh the pasuk. Doesn't say that exactly in the verse. B, if it said it directly in the verse, we don't learn halakha, we don't learn Jewish law from the Navi. So it's a nice reference, it's not bulletproof, yeah.
So do we have to respect our rabbis more than our father-in-law?
Very good question, we'll talk about that. Hold the question. We're going to talk about it.
The same Shaul that tried to kill David.
100%, right.
And now he's got to respect him.
That's correct. No, this is where David is a superstar. He's an absolute, unequivocal superstar. Remarkably so. Yeah? His father-in-law tries to kill him. He had the opportunity to kill his father-in-law. He had every right to do it. He doesn't do it. When he cuts his cloak, he could have killed him, right? Very good. Okay. He refers to him based on this, based on the Yalkut Shimoni and many others. He refers to him like a father because he parallels him to Avner, who was his Torah father. Problem with that is, we call it more of an asmachta. We call it more of a hint, more of a hook. Can we learn Torah can we learn halakha, Jewish law from the Navi? The answer is we can't. Can we learn Musad from the Navi? Mesed, a way to act outside of halakha? The answer is we can't. So if you're going to tell me that you want to learn that there's some level of respect offered to a father-in-law from this, you could say yes, but a lot of people are going to say no. Good. Now we bring from Parashat Yitro. Listen to this. The Mechilta brings. I think this is very beautiful. Vayatze Moshe reklat chotno. Moshe Rabbeinu goes out to greet his father-in-law, Yitro, right? Who was his father-in-law? Kohen Midyan. And what kind of guy was he? He was a superstar idol worshiper. He was the Moshe Rabbeinu, Havdil of the Goyim, right? He was the one who was the master, the promoter, the builder, right? Okay, very good. Vishtachu vayishak lo, right? They say, vayishtachu, somebody bowed and kissed the other, right? Moshe Rabbeinu went back at God's behest to take the Jewish people out of Egypt, and his wife and children and father-in-law for a period of time join him afterwards, right? When he sees his father-in-law in Parashat Yitro, what does it say? Vayishtachu, singular. Somebody bowed to somebody. Vayishak lo, singular. Somebody kissed somebody. It doesn't say it in the plural, meaning somebody did it, and somebody was the recipient of it, right? And the Mechilta says, I don't know who bowed down to who.
I mean, you don't know if Yitro kissed him or Moshe kissed him.
Exactly, great. or mina shaklimi. Then it says, Kishehu omer bishalu ish lere'ehu, mi hakaroi ish de Moshe. It's a beauty. After that it says, after one bowed and kissed the other, one bowed and kissed the other.
Kiss the hand, or does it say? Or?
I'm not sure. Very nice. But in any sense, it's a show of respect. Then it says, Vayishtachu vayishak lo. And the person who bowed, and the person who bowed, and the person who kissed, then it says, Vishalu, and that same person, Ish lire'ehu, right? Ish lire'ehu, one person to the other, but we go further, some of us learn together, that when we say the word Ish, what does it mean? An important person. So therefore, if you're going to call somebody important, you're going to call Moshe Rabbeinu important. So if you're going to call Moshe Rabbeinu important, that would mean that the subject of the sentence didn't change. That would mean that Moshe Rabbeinu bowed, and that would mean that Moshe Rabbeinu kissed his father-in-law. Right? So that would mean that Moshe Rabbeinu showed this high level of respect to his father-in-law, and then Moshe Rabbeinu preempted and said, how are you?
Isn't that asur to show respect to an idol worshiper? I mean, someone who's...
I know, Jeffrey. Very nice. That's what...
idol worshiper, you're not allowed to.
Black and white, that's what it says.
You're not allowed to give him respect.
Very good.
But that's like saying if your father-in-law doesn't keep Shabbat, you're not showing him any respect.
Okay, good.
Idol worship, I think, is different than anything.
Okay, so according to Jeffrey and maybe Abe, you would say that, no. Even though it says it this way, it was really Yitro showing the respect to Moshe Rabbeinu.
This was directed by Hashem to do that.
Who was? Moshe Rabbeinu.
Right. So,
That's what you want to know.
right. So if it's directed by Hashem to do this,
Beautiful.
then it's a totally different story. Then you can't go by it.
1 second. No, you didn't like the
But
idea.
I'm saying,
We have to ask the rabbis.
by the way, I can change.
You can change.
I can change.
You can change.
Joe's lying right now. But I'm saying, one is a directive. This was done maybe on purpose.
Of course it was done on
Okay, so if
purpose.
it was done on purpose, then there's a lesson that is supposed to be learned.
Excellent. That's exactly our point. You might hold like Jeffrey, which some of the rabbis hold, some of the commentators hold, that it can't be that Moshe Rabbeinu showed this kind of respect to an idol worshiper, father-in-law or not. Right, Chacham? That's how you want to hold. Beautiful. Strong opinion. Some of the rabbis hold that opinion.
Right. I mean, you got to work with that.
Very good. Thank you very much. Some of the rabbis...
But it's
Some.
telling you the opposite, black and white.
Okay, so the Mechilta is telling you the opposite. What?
But Yitro was ready to acknowledge Hashem's greatness.
Very good.
So that's the point. He's not an idol worshiper anymore.
Very nice.
Came around.
Excellent.
That's what
Excellent.
I was talking. It's a process. So there has to be a reason. The reason that he could have happened, that he was in the process.
So the reason to mitigate his idol worship would be, to Joey's point, that he was ready to recognize Hashem. But very good. But if you erase the idol worship, you wouldn't have to backfill it with ready to recognize Hashem. You'd clear the deck of his liabilities and his counterbalancing positives, and you'd say it's his father-in-law.
Well, there's another overriding factor. He gave him shelter. He took him in. He gave him, he allowed him into the house. Gave him his daughter. Moshe's
Okay.
appreciative of all.
So you want to hold, okay, you want to hold that, you know what? It ain't about the father-in-law at all. It's simple hakarat hatov for someone who helped him. And therefore, you're gonna be cholek on the mechilta, and you're gonna say, which is fine, you're gonna say, no, it had nothing to do with being the father-in-law altogether. It's basic hakarat hatov, yeah.
Is the purpose to establish the hierarchy here? And
Yeah.
if so, I feel like we're just breaking down the hierarchy. I have a less clear understanding of who to respect from A to Z.
Good. And that's exactly the point. We could skip this. We could skip it and say the following. We could skip it and say, by logic, common sense, right to Abe's point, a father-in-law is a father, I'll see ya. That would be easy, right? Morris, that would be easy, right? Or we could say, we could go the other way, right? We could say, a father-in-law is not a father. Let my wife respect her father the way she has to respect her father, and I'm going to do what I want. But We don't go either way in halacha. We create this gray area, so to speak, and we struggle with it. So that's what we're going to do. He's not my father. So on the one hand, in my mind, what that does, it pushes my father even higher. Because if my father-in-law has to be respected to some level, and my father has to be respected to a much greater level, it means a much greater level than some level, which is pretty good to begin with. Now, if we have sources that say, listen, black and white, halakha is black and white, the father is your father, blood, and your father-in-law is not, blood, we don't have to go there. But we don't end up there. And it's not because of logic or common sense or human reasoning. It's because we have sources we have to deal with. David references a father reference twice. We know he's going to reference a father reference in terms of his father of Torah. Who's the second one referencing? The only other person standing there is his father-in-law Shaul, who some of you said tried to kill him, but he still shows him respect. When Moshe Rabbeinu greets his father-in-law, somebody bows down, somebody kisses the other, one person asks the other, how's it going? To Jeffrey's point, plenty of rabbis explain this to say, of course, it's Yitro asking Moshe. Moshe is Moshe, of course. But guess what? There are plenty of rabbis say, no, because you use the word ish. Ish means the man, right? Because you use the word ish to describe the one who started this conversation, who kissed the hand, who bowed down, that can't be Yitro. Because Yitro was this no good idol worshiper. Now, Mordechai is saying, no, sorry. I'm not going to go this way at all. I'm taking this totally out of the context of Kibbud Av, of the respect to a father, the respect to a father-in-law. Mark is saying, I think Mark or Joey is saying that, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that it's pure Hakarat Tov. That Yitro took care of him for, 60 years or so. He got Joey, sorry. Yitro took care of him for 60 years, and that's what he's showing the reverence for. Okay, let's see. We're gonna bring a few more.
What if you go into business with your father-in-law, he swindles you, you still have to show respect?
We're not talking about a Rasha yet. We didn't get to a Rasha. We're not talking about that. Now at the time, keep in mind, we are not calling Yitro a Rasha. Yitro was not Jewish. Yitro was not bound by the laws of Torah. He's not a Rasha. He was outside the club. Now, at the end of the day, Yitro creates a massive value for the Jewish people. What does he do? What does Yitro do when he guides his son-in-law? Let's take a minute. What does he do?
He can't do everything by himself.
Right, but be more specific. What does he do?
Creates the justice system.
Excellent, but go even further. What does he do? He tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, honey. He tells him, Moshe, how do you spend your day? Tells him, how do you spend your day? Yeah? Moshe Rabbeinu tells him, I see people who have halachic questions, I'm paraphrasing, and I judge. What does Yitro tell him?
I'll help you.
Yeah, but before that he says, this is fundamentally conflicting. Why do we call the parasha on the giving of Torah after this man? Because he set something in Judaism and in the world that's unparalleled. What he said was, a judge can't be a teacher, and a teacher can't be a judge. A teacher is about process. A teacher is about building. A teacher is about non-judging. A teacher is about the long haul. One of my rabbis, Rabbi Tala, told me many years ago, he said, remember him? He said, you want to build a student? Take a 20-year horizon. That's how you evaluate how you contributed to a 20-year. I was 27. 20 felt like more than forever. Right? Now I understand it better. But he said a teacher is patient, non-judging, non-critical. Mahalach, it's a mahalach, right? I hold very strongly, for example, that when somebody is a rabbi in a synagogue, they should plan out their Shabbat morning speeches from, let's say, Elul all the way through Nisan or whatever it is, right? Yeah, when we end the year in Brooklyn, so to speak, they should plan out their speeches from the pulpit so that they know from the outset what they want to achieve this year, what they want to build, how they want to grow their kahal educationally. And based on that, now they frame their Parashat HaShavua speech. Not one-off speech that way, one-off speech that way. Because you can't be an educator and a speaker. You can't be an educator and a judge. You have to be one or the other. So what Yitro brings to the Jewish people and to the world is this spectacular understanding that Moshe Rabbeinu, you want to be the greatest rabbi? You can't be the judge. Because the judge is black and white, yes or no, right or wrong. A rabbi is the opposite.
Moshe didn't know that the greatest man that ever lived, the greatest prophet,
Right.
didn't know that's
He needed that discernment. And Yitro has the great zechut to bring it to him. It's fascinating, right? You know what you could say, Jaime, in this kind of case? You could say,
I had more experience.
huh?
As a leader.
He had more experience, and the Torah went out of its way to tell us this, right? If you wanted to ignore it, the Torah could have ignored it and had us all assume that Moshe Rabbeinu figured this out on his own. But the Torah goes out of its way to tell us that Yitro brought it to him, right? Huh? Halomed mikol adam. Nice.
or we learn, right? From the goyim, you learn if there's something that kinds of learning from the goyim if they're the experts in that area.
Yeah.
That we learn from them. Yeah.
Excellent. That's right. Excellent. Okay, so now let's go back a step. Can we learn from the first reference in the book of Shemuel, where David HaMelech refers to Avner as his father and Shaul as a father, i.e., he's giving Shaul the respect, despite the fact that he's his father-in-law, he's giving him respect, and therefore we have a klal, we have a learning principle that we don't learn from the Navi, we do not, but we can if the Talmud, right, doesn't conflict with it. So it's very interesting. So if the Talmud, if something we saw in the Gemara conflicts with something we saw in the Navi, we can't learn from the Navi. But if we didn't see anything in the Gemara to conflict, or we saw ideas in the Gemara to affirm, we can learn from the Navi.
You gotta know the whole Gemara in order to.
Excellent, correct. מכל מקום, כשאין לזה סתירה מדברי התלמוד, לומדים הלכה מן האגדות. כבואר כן בספר הישר רבנו תם, שיש ללמוד מן המדרשים כשאינם מכחישים את התלמוד, שהרבה מנהגים בידינו על פיהם. He says, unless I have something, black and white, so to speak, in the Talmud that conflicts with what was written in the Navi, right, then I can learn from it. Therefore, you can say that if you look at what David HaMelech said, and he shows the respect to his father-in-law, you're going to say, I got to deal with my father-in-law. And even though the Torah says, to Mark's point, black and white, kabed et avicha ve'et imecha, your father and your mother, right? And not her father and her mother, because I have a reference in the Navi, I have to deal with it and I can't ignore it because the Gemara doesn't say otherwise. V'chen katav b'shut chayim sha'al, chelek alav, v'chen katuv b'pri chadash, he's bringing others. Demi yuchal lachlok al midrash, below ra'aya me'ashas. V'chen katuv b'sefer mayim chayim, and so on and so on and so on. So what do we have? We have one beautiful perspective that says, listen, we have a reference here, even if you're going to say, that some people are going to say that clearly it was Yitro who bowed down to Moshe Rabbeinu, and therefore we don't have reference in the Torah to validate honoring a father-in-law. Then if you're going to say that, we didn't deal with that yet. We're holding that it was Moshe Rabbeinu who did that little bow, right? Because there aren't references in the Talmud to negate this idea, to tear down the idea that you have to respect the father-in-law to a certain level, we're going to learn from what David HaMelech did, King David did, in the book of Shemuel, in reference to his father-in-law. Good. Now, עוד כתב הבא, דמלשון התורה יראה שאינו חייב לכבדם כי אם בדרך שמכבד הזקנים בקימה והידור. Right? He says that at least minimally, according to the Bach, you have to stand up. Now, let's go a little more contemporary. פשוט יחווה דעת. העלה שבחמיב יש לקום לפניו בתוך תחת אמות בנו קומתו, כמו בזקן שאינו תלמיד חכם. Chaveh Da'at, which is Hamavajah, right? He wrote it many years ago. He says that you have to stand up within 8 or 10 feet when your father-in-law walks in the room, even if he's a regular guy. In other words, it shouldn't be based on the criteria of whether he's a Talmid Chacham or not, even if he's a regular guy. Good. And now he brings...
What if he doesn't get within 8? He comes in, he stays on the other side of the room.
Then it appears that you don't have to stand up. Whereas for your father, you'd clearly have to stand up. Now, let me ask you something else. We have different types of standing. We have standing and standing. What's the standing and standing, Joe? Fully standing and that kind of standing. Which one you want to do?
Standing is standing.
Standing, standing.
It's not crouching, it's standing.
No, there's a standing you could sit after, and then there's your father till he gives you the signal. You can't.
Right, till he sits, so gives you the signal. So let's see.
At ease.
והנה משמעות דברי ספר החרדים, מבואה דכיבוד חמי וחמותו, הוא מדאורייתא. Sefer HaCharedim says, okay, and we're telling you, this is a sefer that is talking about a greater rigorousness, a greater sensitivity. שהרי כלל מצוות כיבוד חמי וחמותו בכלל מצוות דאורייתא. He says in Sefer HaCharedim, and the word Haredim means, right, more caring, more zealous, right? He says that kibud chami v'chamoto is not something we're going to learn from the story in the Navi, is not something we're going to learn indirectly from the story with Moshe Rabbeinu and Yitro. He holds that it's absolutely midoraita. It's biblical and it's on the same level of anything else. Okay, beauty. Ube'er sham te'ish ve'ishto kechad gufa chashive. Va'av va'em shel zeh kishel zeh. What does that mean? Ba'al ki ishto. Isha ki ba'ala. What I referenced earlier.
The parent of your wife is your parent.
That's right. And then in many areas of Jewish law, we look at the two of them the same. Now, this is Sefer HaCharedim. The name of the book is for those who are more rigorous and more zealot, right? So that's clearly not mainstream halacha. It's a more elevated level, but he holds it's very clear. You can't tell me in context A, B, C, D, and E that my wife and I are one person, and then tell me in context J that we're not, right? He says, if my wife and I are one person, generally speaking, in the context of halacha, then why should it be any different here? It shouldn't. That's what Sefer HaCharedim says, right? Go on, yes?
Yeah, but in reality it's not, because the Torah was said 10 commandments, kavit et abicha v'emecha and hamatak, and then
so he's saying like this, being that my wife and I are one,
I'm not telling you that.
Beautiful, but he's saying like this.
You want to deduct them, but it's not.
No, okay, very nice. He's saying that being that my wife and I are effectively the same person, al pi halacha, kaberet avicha is my father. If he's her father, it's mine. Again, this is a more extreme position, but we have to note it. Because, by the way, sometimes we want to be charedim. We want to be extra zealous in something. Because we feel, hang on one second, we feel that being extra zealous is going to build my life on a higher level. Why does a person act in an extra zealous way? More than the level of halakha? Do we always do that? Of course not. Do we do it with judgment and with caution and care? Sure. Now, if we make an assessment, if I make an assessment, let's say, that my children are going to be better children, if I teach them, I'm going to tell them, al pi halacha, pshat halacha, you don't have to treat your father-in-law the way you treat me, let's say. Here's the laws for kibud av va'em, and here it's a lesser thing for your father-in-law. But if I feel that it's going to enrich my children's lives and make them better people, do I have what to stand on? I absolutely do. They're not saying that this is going too far, that this is breaking the halakha. Okay, yeah.
We said spirit of the law is unique to Kibud Avayim. If these other rabbis are holding that respecting your father-in-law is not part of Kibud Avayim, why am I even dealing with the spirit of the law?
I'm telling you why. Because we have a halachic axiom. It's a rock-solid axiom. that in many areas of halacha, my wife and me are the same
From his
person.
perspective, I understand. I'm saying from the other rabbi's perspective, why am I making these qualifiers?
Oh, because it's saying, it says kavodet avicha, and that's it.
What areas of halacha are you saying?
I'm telling you this, I gave you one
You and
example.
your wife are one.
Wait.
And the area of Edut is the primary example, where my wife's relatives and my relatives are the same people, and if my relatives can't be witnesses, or in certain cases judges in a case that I'm involved in, neither can my wife's relatives, because she and I are one person, right? So you're going to say that in certain places, right, Jeffrey? But does that mean you say it here also? Maybe yes, maybe no. According to the basic, not the basic, according to the majority of the halachic authorities, you say no. It's true in those cases, but it's not true in this case. But Sefer Haredim, which by definition is pushing for something greater.
In that case, not because of that reason, but because there's a conflict of interest.
No, he's saying because of that reason. Beautiful. Love it. He's saying because of that reason. He's saying, Isha k'ba'ala, Baal ki'ishto. They're really one person. If that's true, when it says kabedet avicha, the father is the father. If it's her father, it's my father. Again, that's not the majority opinion. Let's go a little further and then we'll pause. בכתב הגאון רבי שלמה יגאל לבנו בשו"ת חוט המשולש שהזהירה תורה לכבודם אולם מדברי שאר הפוסקים משמע דכיבוד חמי וחמותו אינו אלא מדרבנן. He says it beautifully. We're going to do one more drop and then we'll stop. He says it beautifully. What he says is that the kaberet avicha v'etimecha is biblical, Mark. It's biblical. But we're going to learn the hamiv, the father-in-law, mother-in-law, from the rabbis. Now, that's also somewhat of a, we have to develop that, right? But we have opinions that say that it's rabbinic. Now, if it's rabbinic, I'm absolutely obligated to it. In practice, it doesn't make much of a difference in practice, not in logic and Torah thinking, but in practice, it doesn't make much of a difference, day-to-day practice. If it's biblical or rabbinic, I have to do it. So the opinion who builds from Sefer Haredim says it's rabbinic. Let's do a few more real quick. V'hen emet shemaran hida b'Sefer Brit Olam katav al divrei Sefer Haredim. Now we have the hida weighing in on the position of Sefer Haredim. Shema shneimar etza leisha avi b'chibur avi b'mora and so on. Shebazeh nicha ma shelamdu Chazal shechayav adam mikvod chamiv shneimar v'avi re'eh gam re'eh v'lo amru shechayav gam b'mora'o lefi shelo neimar avi re'eh ele pa'am achad. Beautiful. He says like this. He says, we're going to learn from what was written in what he calls the Agadah, is actually the Navi, the prophet, from the story of David when he sees Avner and Shaul. We're going to learn. And the way David references the two men cannot be ignored. There's no question that he's referencing his father-in-law when he calls him dad. And the fact that he's referencing his father-in-law when he calls him dad, we're going to learn from that you have to show respect to your father-in-law. Can we make the claim that it's on the same level as respect to your father? According to Sefer Haredim, yes. And a few commentaries built from that. But according to mainstream halakha, no. But it still means that there's a level of respect that has to be given to my father-in-law. Final one for this morning. Zot Torat ha'olah ki chayav adam lechabed chamib k'ma v'hidur ושמגיע תוך 4 אמות, אבל אינו חייב לכבודו ככיבוד אביו. ויש נוהגים גם כן לנשק ידי חמיב דרך כבוד ויקר, כן ראוי לעשות. ובפרט כשחמיב הוא בן תורה בעל מעשים טובים. It says, mainstream halakha, pretty much everybody agrees, that it's not the same level. Clearly it's not biblical, nowhere near as comprehensive. It's rabbinic, and it's about creating a mindset of respect. Do I have to take and bring my father-in-law to the doctor the way I have to take and bring my father? No. Do I have to work to find my father-in-law an apartment and shelter and this, that, and clothing and basic needs? No. Do I have to respect him? Do I have to stand up when he walks into the room like I would stand up for an older person who has some Torah? Yes. If you want to go further, to Abe's point before, if you want to go further and you want to establish certain family values, you have every right, because you have midas moch, you have people to depend on. In terms of Sefer Haredim and a few others, Rabbeinu Shlomo Iger, he says that it's all the same. And we, in the world where we want to be more rigorous, we don't want our kids to make a distinction between one or the other. So if you want to go further, you have every right to do it. He says, Sefer Haredim says that when it says Abba, it means Hami. Abba is Abba, father is father, my father or her father. The husband and wife are considered one person in many areas of halakha. According to him, it's Da'at Yachid. It's not the majority opinion, but according to him, you should honor your father-in-law like your father.
We
But
don't
according
want our kids to make a distinction between who, them, their father, and their father-in-law.
Correct. So therefore, but the mainstream opinion is that my father and mother are on this exalted pedestal. We've talked about a number of the criteria to that. And my in-laws are not on the same exalted pedestal.
So then we do want to make a distinction to our kids.
Okay, very good. I'm telling you what the mainstream halakha is, and then I'm telling you there's yesh ami l'smoch. We have those to depend on and to build from who say, if you feel that, not if you feel, they say black and white, that you have to treat them the same. But that gives us the latitude to say, if we feel that we're going to build a better child with better values, with greater sensitivity, then we have the place, we have the room within halachic discourse to say, treat them the same. Mainstream halakha says, I don't have to. We have very giant opinions that say, I do have to, but we generally go by mainstream halakha, clearly don't have to, and clearly it's not biblical. So you're going to either say it's rabbinic, or you're going to say it's whatever it is. But
what I'm trying to say, by that very fact, we should make a distinction.
Good.
Just like we're doing here.
Good. Okay,
So
good.
Why shouldn't we make a
Some people
distinction
don't want to slide
to
their
our,
nose.
our children? That is.
you're right. We can. We have the halachic basis to do that. But to Abe's point, he says, I don't know what that means. I don't know how my child, in this day and age, I don't know how my child internalizes that. I don't know. I don't know.
Very confusing.
It's confusing, and it might be. And again, we have to take these things, and because if the halakha is black and white, honor your father, don't honor your father-in-law, it's one thing. But if the halakha says you have a biblical obligation written several times in different ways in the Torah to honor your mom and dad, and it's not directly referenced, but we can indirectly reference it, now you have to think about it. And you go to Abe's point. How am I going to build a better child? What am I going to do? At least, he has to stand up in the room and should kiss his hand. At least. And then you can either go from there or not.
When are you going to bring in the worthiness part of this?
Huh?
When are you going to bring the worthiness part of this?
Okay, very good. So right now we're operating excellent. Right now we're operating on the assumption, on the premise that we're talking about good people. Now we're going to move to next week. We're going to move to, well, what if this one or that one, no, is not a good person?
Not so good people.
What if the
He's a
person?
bad person.
No.
Maybe he's not respectful to you.
Very good. What if he's not respectful to you? Do you deserve his respect? We're going to talk about that. What if he's Mechalel Shabbat? What about that? What if he knows that you shouldn't do this and that? He knows. He doesn't know. Let's leave it. Something else. But what if he knows? Is that do I have to respect a person who's Mechalel Shabbat? What if he tells me to do something that I shouldn't do? Right? What if he tells me about that? Good. Now that we set somewhat of a foundation, now we're going to move into those areas. But I need the foundation first. My foundation is kavod, weightiness, morah, or with a parent. We talked about it from the perspective of their creature needs, basic needs, which the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch is very clear on, and possibly beyond, which would be causing them pain or not. Now we moved slightly outside of that to the perspective of father-in-law, mother-in-law, And we will now move to the perspective of now I have to make value judgments. And here, if without the foundation that we established, you can't even look at that. Now I have to make a value judgment. My father tells me to do this and that. It's not quite against the halakha, but it's not the way I'm building my life. Do I have to listen or not? My father, I want to do this or that. It's not the way we grew up, so to speak. Can I do it and disrespect my father in that sense because my father's telling me don't do it or not? Those are the things we're going to talk about. Baruch Hanallah, amen ואמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשה אומר, עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא זכות ישראל. לפיכך בעלי התורה מצוות שנאמר, נא יחפש, מה סיכוי ידיר תורה וידיר.